Welcome to all of you. Today we will solve one problem in case of liquidation. A Company Limited went into voluntary liquidation on 31st December 2018. The balance sheet as on that date was as follows. We have share capital 4,000 preference shares, 4,006% preference shares of rupees 100 each, 2,000 equity shares of rupees 100 each, 75 paid, 6,000 equity shares of rupees 100 each, 60 paid. Then we have 5% debenture, interest outstanding on debenture. Then we have creditors. Land and building, plant and machine, patent, stock on cost, debtors, cash at bank, PL account. PL account is a fictitious assets. Don't consider, ignore it. It's a loss given in asset side. The preference dividend were in arrears for 2 years. Creditors include a loan for rupees 1 lakh on mortgage of land and building. The assets were realized as follows. Land and building 2 lakh 40, plant and machine 4 lakh, patent 60,000, stock 1 lakh 20,000, debtors 1 lakh 60,000. The expenses of liquidation amounted to rupees 21,800. The liquidator entitled to a commission of 3% on all assets realized except cash, and 2% amount paid to unsecured creditors. Preferential creditors amount to rupees 30,000. Assuming that the payments were made on June 30, 2019, prepare liquidator's final statement of account. Now let's discuss in detail. A Company Limited went into voluntary liquidation on 31st December 18. The balance sheet as on that date was as follows. We have 4,006% preference shares of rupees 100 each, 4 lakh. So 4 lakh is a preference capital, 6% is a rate of dividend. Then we have 2,000 equity shares of rupees 100 each, 75 paid. And another equity share is 6,000 equity shares of rupees 100 each, 60 paid. So one equity share is 75 paid. Another equity share is 60 paid. Then we have 5% debenture. Then we have interest outstanding on debenture, existing old interest baki 10,000. Then we have creditors 2,90,000. Land and building, plant and machine, patent, stock on cost, debtors, cash at bank is given. PL account given in asset side is a loss. It's a fictitious asset. Don't consider it, ignore it. Preference dividends were in arrears for 2 years. So dividend is baki for 2 years. So how will you calculate dividend? So dividend is calculated as follows. It's 4 lakh into 6% into 2 years. 4 lakh into 6% into 2 years. You get 48,000 dividend arrears which has to be paid. Creditors include a loan creditor of rupees 1 lakh on mortgage on land and building. So we have creditors including in a loan creditor of rupees 1 lakh. See, the total creditor is 2,90,000. Out of 2,90,000, 1 lakh is secured creditors. Out of 2,90,000, 1 ಲಕ್ಷ ಬಂದು secured creditors. ಮತ್ತೆ 30,000 ಕೆಳಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಇದು preferential creditors. So out of 2,90,000, 1 lakh is secured creditors, 30,000 is preferential creditors. Then remaining leftover ulida amount to 1,30,000 is unsecured creditors. The assets were realized as follows. 2,40,000 land and building, 4 lakh plant and machine, 60,000 patents, 1,20,000 stock, 1,60,000 debtors. The expenses of liquidation amounted to rupee 21,800. So expenses is 21,800. The liquidator entitled to a commission at 3% on all assets realized except cash. So cash ಅನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಉಳಿದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಸ್ತಿ ಮಾರಾಟದ ಮೇಲೆ 3% ಲೆಕ್ಕ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. And 2% on amount paid to unsecured creditors. So 2% unsecured creditor ಮೇಲೆ ಲೆಕ್ಕ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಆದರೆ ಪ್ರಿಫರೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟರ್ಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಲೆಕ್ಕ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದಂತ ಹೇಳಿಲ್ಲ. So we conclude that it should be calculated on preferential creditor because preferential creditor is also unsecured creditors. Next, preferential creditors amounted to rupee 30,000. So we have already made a calculation before. Assuming that the payments were made on 30th June 19, there is a delay in the payment of 6 months. Kindly look at the top. We have a payment of rupees. We have a payment. The date of liquidation is December 18, but the payments are made on June 19. It means there is a late payment of 6 months. So you need to pay debenture interest for 6 months. ಬಡ್ಡಿ 6 ತಿಂಗಳು ಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ತಡವಾಗಿ ಪಾವತಿ ಮಾಡಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ. Here's the answer. Receipt side we have cash 60,000 outer column. Then we have this land and building realized 2,40,000. Plant and machinery 4 lakh. Patent 60,000. Stock 1,20,000. Debtors it's 1,60,000. Total assets realized it's 9,80,000. And then we need to go to the payment side. In case of payment side we have secured creditors. So we have a secured creditors 1 lakh. Then we have liquidation expenses 21,800. Then we need to calculate liquidators remuneration. ವೇತನ ಬಂದು 3 ಆಧಾರದ ಮೇಲೆ ಲೆಕ್ಕ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಆಸ್ತಿ ಮಾರಾಟದ ಮೇಲೆ, unsecured creditors ಮೇಲೆ, preferential creditors ಮೇಲೆ. So remuneration is calculated on 3. On assets realized 9,80,000 into 3%. We get 29,400. On preferential creditors is 30,000 into 2%. We get 600. And then on unsecured creditors, for the time being unsecured creditors keep it pending because we need to check whether sufficient amount is available or not available. If sufficient amount is available, we need to take into rate divided by 100. If sufficient amount is not available, into rate divided by 100 plus rate. ತಾತ್ಕಾಲಿಕವಾಗಿ unsecured creditors ಮೇಲೆ ವೇತನ ಮಾಡಬೇಡಿ. ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಹಣ ಇದೆಯಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ ಅಂತ ತದನಂತರ ನೋಡೋಣ. Then we have debenture payment 2 lakhs. Then we have interest on debenture 15,000. Old interest ಬಾಕಿ 10,000 given in balance sheet plus 5,000 6 months delay in payment. 6 ತಿಂಗಳು ತಡವಾಗಿ ಪಾವತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ 5,000 ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಬಡ್ಡಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. That is 2 lakh into 5% into 6/12. 6 ತಿಂಗಳು ಲೇಟು. So we get 5,000. Then old interest 10,000 plus new interest 5,000. So total interest payable is 15,000. Then we have preferential creditors 30,000. Then unsecured creditors. Let us check whether unsecured creditors ಕೊಡೋ ಅಷ್ಟು ಹಣ ಇದೆಯಾ ಅಂತ ನೋಡೋಣ. ಒಂದು ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ರಫ್ ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ. ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟರ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿ. Total assets realized 9,80,000 plus cash 60,000 minus secured creditors 1 lakh minus liquidation expenses 21,800 minus liquidator remuneration on assets 29,400 on preferential creditors 600. Then we have debenture payment 2 lakh. Then interest on debenture 15,000. Then preferential creditors 30,000. So leftover amount is 6,43,200, but unsecured creditors is 1,60,000. So ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಹಣ ಇದೆ creditor ಕೊಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ. We have sufficient amount to pay creditors. So on unsecured creditors we calculate remuneration 1,60,000 into 2 divided by 100. We get 3,200. then total remuneration will be 3200 plus 600 plus 29,400. Total remuneration is 33,200. After unsecured creditors, we need to pay preference capital 4 lakh. We need to pay preference capital 4 lakh. Then we need to pay preference dividend baki for 2 years. So we get 48,000. 4 lakh capital into 6% rate of dividend into 2 years, we get 48,000. Now let us check how much amount is left over. Once again, take your calculator. Receipt side we have cash 60,000. Then assets realized 9,80,000. Total amount cash in hand is 10,40,000 minus liquidator secured creditor 1 lakh minus liquidator remuneration 21,800 minus liquidator remuneration 33,200 minus debenture 2 lakh minus interest on debenture 15,000 minus preferential creditors 30,000 minus unsecured creditors 1,60,000 minus preference capital 4 lakh minus preference dividend 48,000. Leftover amount is 32,000. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂತದ್ದು ಕೇವಲ 32,000. ಇದನ್ನ ಹೇಗೆ ಎರಡು ಈಕ್ವಿಟಿ ಶೇರ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಹಂಚ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು? ಒಂದು ಈಕ್ವಿಟಿ ಶೇರ್ ಬಂದು 75 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಪೇಯ್ಡ್, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಈಕ್ವಿಟಿ ಶೇರ್ ಬಂದು 60 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಪೇಯ್ಡ್. ಒನ್ ಈಕ್ವಿಟಿ ಶೇರ್ ಇಸ್ 60 rupee paid. Another equity share is 75 rupee paid. So we have 2,000 equity shares of rupees 75 paid, 6,000 equity shares of rupees 60 paid. So what you do, dear students, first pay 2,000 equity share 15 rupee. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ 2,000 ಈಕ್ವಿಟಿ ಶೇರ್ ಅವರು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರೋದು 75 ರೂಪಾಯಿ. ಇನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಈಕ್ವಿಟಿ ಶೇರ್ ಬಂದು 60 ರೂಪಾಯಿ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನೀವೇನ್ ಮಾಡಿ 15 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಈಕ್ವಿಟಿ ಶೇರ್ ನ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಡಿ. 75 ರೂಪಿ ಈಕ್ವಿಟಿ ಶೇರ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಆಫ್ 15 ರೂಪಿ ಕಂಪೇರ್ಡ್ ಟು 60 ರೂಪಿ. ಸೊ ಪೇ ದಟ್ 15 ರೂಪಿ ಫಸ್ಟ್. ಸೊ 2,000 shares into 15 rupee, we get 30,000. Then remaining 2,000 pay to entire equity shares. That is pay to all equity shares, because both equity share has become now 60. 2,000 equity share also became 60. 6,000 equity share is already 60. So remaining 2,000 you need to pay to both class of equity share. So final amount payable, you have 2,000 divided by 8,000 share. How you get 8,000 share? 2,000 share plus 6,000 share, we get totally 8,000 share. So you pay 25 paisa per share. ಒಂದು ಶೇರ್ಗೆ ಕೊಡೋದು 25. ಹೇಗೆ ಫೈನಲ್ ಕನ್ಕ್ಲೂಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ? 2,000 ಈಕ್ವಿಟಿ ಶೇರ್ ಅವರು 75 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆ 75 ರೂಪಾಯಿಗೆ 15 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀರಿ. ಸೊ ಆ 15 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಇದೊಂದು 25 ಪೈಸಾ. ಸೊ ಯು ಪೇ 15 ರೂಪಿ 25 paisa for 2,000 share. For 6,000 share you pay only 25 paisa. Thank you.